If you miss my wedding, Claire, don't come back at all. Hannah didn't raise her voice. She didn't even blink. Just stood there, arms folded in a sea of silk and lace, voice low, final, unshakable. Claire Beckett had walked through fire-disarmed bombs, buried comrades. Nothing ever stopped her. Until now. Because this wasn't a mission. This was her little sister, eyes sharp with grief. You missed birthdays. You missed Dad's funeral. You missed my engagement, Hannah said, breathing through fury. I forgave it all, but not this. Not again. Claire tried to speak. Failed. Her phone buzzed. She didn't check it, but Hannah saw her face pale. What is it? Nothing, Claire said. A lie, because in her pocket the screen kept flashing urgent red Venezuela level 5. Confirm ID. And just like that, Claire had to choose save the world, or finally show up for her sister. You won't believe what she does next. Claire didn't say a word. She just stood there, surrounded by velvet chairs and bouquets, staring at the girl who used to sneak into her bed during thunderstorms. The girl who once begged her to come home for Christmas only to get a voicemail from Kabul instead. 16 years of missed calls, of video chats instead of hugs, of next time and soon and you know I can't talk about it. Hannah always understood. That's what made it worse. She never screamed, never cursed. She just waited, and today she'd stopped. I'm not asking you to quit the army, Hannah said softer now. I'm not asking you to change who you are. She reached for Claire's hand. I'm just asking you to choose me. One time. Claire's fingers tightened around Hannah's, and in that moment she meant it. I'll be there, Claire whispered. I promise. And this time she thought she really would. But Hannah didn't smile. She just looked down at their hands, then slowly pulled hers away. Claire, you've said that before. Her voice didn't rise, but the words landed hard. You promised you'd be there when Dad got sick. You promised you'd come to my graduation. You promised you'd meet Jake before he proposed. Claire remembered each moment like shrapnel under her skin. The call from her CO in the middle of Hannah's freshman orientation. The deployment orders that came 2 days before their dad's funeral. The ambush in Kandahar that kept her off the plane home. She remembered. All of it. But so did Hannah. This isn't about one wedding, Hannah said. It's about every time I looked for you. And you weren't there. Claire stepped back, shame tightening in her throat. But I mean it this time, she said. Hannah's reply was a whisper. So did I, every time I forgave you. That night, Claire sat alone in the guest room of a borrowed cottage outside Savannah. Her duffel lay untouched by the door, combat boots still dusty from her last training op. Next to them hung the blush-pink bridesmaid dress Hannah had picked out just for her. It matches your skin tone, Claire. For once you won't look like a soldier, Hannah had joked. Claire stared at it now like it might vanish. On the nightstand was a picture frame, 2 girls in swimsuits soaked in lake water laughing with popsicles in hand. 4th of July, 1994. Hannah was 8. Claire had carried her on her back the whole afternoon. Back when showing up meant nothing more than jumping off a dock together. Now it meant everything. Claire reached for her phone. Typed alarm set. Packed. We'll be there by 0700. Love you, Han. She hit send. And for once, believed it. The cottage was quiet. Still dark. Not even the birds had started. Claire was already half awake when the phone buzzed. She blinked, reached for it, expecting a morning text from Hannah. Instead, the screen read, Priority Red. Secure line incoming. She stared at it. Didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, answered. Beckett. A pause. Then a voice she knew too well. Colonel, sorry to wake you. This is General Harris. We've got a situation. Claire sat up straight. Instinct taking over. Go ahead, sir. Ambassador Carter's convoy was ambushed near the Venezuelan border. He's alive. His wife. 2 children. Hostage. Local intel confirms it's a verified rebel cell. Hostages will be executed by 2300 hours if demands aren't met. Claire didn't respond. Just closed her eyes. The line stayed quiet for a beat. You're the only one qualified for this op, Beckett. And just like that, the promise from 10 hours ago was already shaking loose. Claire stood still for a long time, phone still warm in her hand. Call ended. Choice unresolved. The room hadn't changed, but everything inside her had. She turned. 2 things hung on the closet door. On the left, her uniform. Pressed perfect. Name patch freshly sewn. On the right, the blush-pink bridesmaid dress. Soft, quiet, chosen by Hannah just for her. 2 lives, 2 sisters, two kinds of duty. She stepped forward, reached for the uniform, then paused. Her fingers hovered over the fabric, then drifted toward the dress. She touched the silk. It felt too soft for who she was now. Claire sat on the bed, elbows on knees, head in hands. She didn't cry, but for the first time in years, she wanted to, because this time she wasn't being sent, she was being torn, and somewhere in a white room full of flowers and mirrors, Hannah was still waiting. Claire stared at the screen for a long time. Her fingers hovered over Hannah's contact. She could call, she could explain, she could tell her the truth, but what would that change? She pictured Hannah in her curlers laughing with the bridesmaids, holding a cup of tea with both hands like she always did when nervous. Claire couldn't ruin that. Not yet. So she typed instead. "Getting dressed now. Can't wait to see you, Han. Today's the day. Love you always." She stared at the words, then hit send. The message delivered with a tiny ping. That sound felt heavier than a helicopter rotor. Claire slid the phone into her bag. Uniform on, boots laced, badge clipped. The front door opened with a soft creak, and as it closed behind her, so did the only promise she'd ever sworn on their father's grave. Fort Liberty was already awake. Engines hummed. Boots hit pavement. Radios crackled with code. Claire didn't need to hear twice. She walked fast, kept her head down. Nobody asked why she looked like hell. Nobody asked why her hands kept curling into fists. That was the thing about the military. No one cared what you left behind as long as you showed up on time. Major Cole fell into step beside her. "You ready, ma'am?" Claire gave a sharp nod. "Brief me on the way." They walked in silence down the corridor. He glanced over. "Everything okay back home?" She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Cole didn't push. He just handed her a file and said, "You'll want to see the updated SAT intel. The kids are with them." Claire opened the folder. 2 grainy photos, a boy, maybe 7, a girl in pigtails holding a stuffed animal. Claire's throat tightened. They weren't Hannah, but they were someone's Hannah. The C-17 was cold, loud, unforgiving. Claire strapped in near the cargo bay door, knees stiff-mined, busier than the flight plan. She clutched the mission folder like a lifeline. Didn't open it. Didn't need to. She already knew what she was flying toward. Jackson Cole sat across from her. Hands clasped, eyes shut. Not praying, just preserving energy. He cracked one eye open. "You look like someone left the lights on but forgot the room." Claire didn't answer. He studied her, quietly, then leaned forward. "You didn't tell her, did you?" Claire blinked. "Once." He nodded more to himself than her. "Yeah, I wouldn't have either." She looked down at her lap. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Hannah. "You on the road yet? Just realized we forgot to pick a first dance song. Maybe you'll choose it for me." Claire read it 3 times, then turned the screen face down, and didn't reply. Back at Magnolia Gardens, Hannah sat in the bridal suite, hair half-curled, makeup halfway done. The room smelled like flowers and setting spray. Someone was playing old Ella Fitzgerald on a Bluetooth speaker. Her best friend Emma was pinning baby's breath into her hair. "You nervous?" Emma asked. Hannah smiled. "Not about Jake. About Claire." She hesitated, then nodded. She promised, Hannah said quietly, as if saying it louder might break it. She said she'd be here by 7. Knowing her, she's probably outside right now checking perimeter security like it's a NATO summit. They both laughed. Then Emma added, "It would be so like Claire to come in uniform and hand the band a seating chart." That made Hannah smile again. Really smile. She picked up her phone, checked it. No new messages, no calls. She didn't worry. Not yet. Instead, she whispered to herself like a prayer, "She's coming. This time, she's coming." The jungle was too quiet. Claire crouched behind a cluster of palms, scanning the compound ahead. Sweat trickled down her spine. Mosquitoes whined near her ears, but her instincts had gone silent. That was the real problem. Jackson Cole dropped beside her. "No guards," he muttered. "No sentries. No movement." "Too clean," Claire replied. Angela Reed's voice came through her earpiece. "Thermals show no bodies. Not inside. Not perimeter. Possible intel error." Claire didn't flinch, but inside something dropped. This was supposed to be the holding site, where Ambassador Carter's family was kept, but it looked staged. She made the call anyway. "Move in, sweep and clear." The team moved like smoke. Minutes passed. Then a voice in her ear. "Empty, ma'am, completely. Just a cot, a broken radio, and a child's sock." Claire stared into the green. They were chasing ghosts, and someone wanted them to. Angela Reed stood behind the laptop, eyes fixed on the live drone feed. The mountains rolled like green giants' mist curling through their ribs. "No movement on the eastern face," she said. "Wait, hold on." Claire stepped beside her. The screen twitched, a narrow split in the rock. Nothing more than a shadow. Then, a sound. Very faint. Garbled, but human. Angela boosted the mic feed, a crackle of static. Then, "This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine." Claire froze. A child's voice. Off-key. Soft. Singing into darkness. Angela whispered, "That's American. That's a Sunday school song." Claire nodded once, jaw tight. "Send the coordinates to Cole. Get eyes on that cave." Angela hesitated. "Ma'am, if that child is singing she thinks someone will hear her." Claire looked at the map. The terrain was steep. The location remote. The risk high. "She's right," Claire said quietly. "Someone did." They reached the cave entrance just after 1400 hours. Claire crouched low eyes on the jagged mouth of stone. Reed whispered, "Thermal confirms 4 heat signatures inside. 2 small. 1 adult barely moving." That was all Claire needed. She signaled forward. "Cole Park, on me." Slow and quiet. They moved like ghosts' boots, silent against moss and stone. Halfway in, Sergeant Kim Park raised a fist, stopped, then pointed. Claire followed his finger and saw it. Thin wires almost invisible stretched low across the floor, crisscrossed like a spider's web. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. "Tripwire grid." Park didn't move, just murmured, "Handmade." "Smart. Rigged to collapse the ceiling." Reed's voice came through earpiece. "It's not just a prison. It's a coffin." Claire exhaled slow. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. One mistake and they'd bury the hostages right where they found them. Alive or not. Claire stared at the map. The extraction route was brutal 3 hours and 4 hours out minimum. "Even if we start now," Park said, "we're pushing past 2200 hours, and that's if no one dies on the way." Claire checked her watch. In Georgia, it was 3:21 p.m. The ceremony started in 3 hours. Reception would stretch till dawn, maybe. But she knew Hannah. If Claire wasn't at the altar, if she wasn't in the photos, the speeches, the first dance, it wouldn't matter when she showed up. She'd already be gone. Reed looked at her. "We need a call, Colonel. Do we go in now, or wait for EOD backup from Bogota?" Claire's hand rested on her radio. She wasn't thinking like a soldier anymore. She was thinking like a sister with nothing left to trade except time. And she was out of that too. Magnolia Gardens glowed with soft light. Guests took their seats. Music began. Hannah stood behind the double doors veil in place, bouquet trembling in her hands. Emma leaned close. "You look perfect." Hannah smiled, but her eyes kept drifting toward the back of the room. "Still no Claire. She's probably outside," Hannah whispered. "Just being dramatic." Inside the cave, Claire stood frozen. Reed waited. Park waited. Cole waited. Claire didn't speak, just looked at her watch again. 4:01 p.m. Georgia time. Her sister was walking down the aisle, and Claire was standing in a jungle surrounded by tripwires and heat and the ghosts of her own choices. Her hand hovered over her comms. She could say it. Abort. Extract me. But she didn't. Not yet. Because Hannah had always waited. And maybe deep down Claire still believed this time she could make it. Somehow. The music shifted. The doors opened. And Hannah stepped into the aisle. She didn't look at the guests. Didn't look at Jake waiting at the altar in full-dress blues. She looked toward the back. 1 beat. 2. No Claire. She kept walking. Each step heavy in her satin shoes. The oak beams above caught the light just right. The chandeliers sparkled like they were trying to distract her. Halfway down, Hannah's eyes scanned the rows again. Still no movement. No uniform. No boots. No sister. Emma stood at the front, already holding the bouquet she was never supposed to carry. Hannah's throat closed. But she didn't stop. Didn't cry. She just kept walking. Because if she paused, if she turned around, she might have screamed. Instead, she whispered under her breath, "She's coming." But this time, she didn't believe it. Jackson Clare said without looking up. He turned. "Ma'am." She handed him the mission tablet. "You're taking point. Full command. This op is yours now." He froze. "Colonel, with all due respect." "No time." Her voice was low. "Controlled? Final." Reed stepped closer. "Claire, Are you walking off an active hostage rescue? Claire nodded once. Not walking off. I'm handing it to someone I trust. Do you know what that means for your record? Claire looked out toward the jungle. I know what it means for my sister. Silence. Then Jackson spoke quiet. You really think you'll make it in time? Claire looked down at her watch. 4:46 p.m. in Savannah. Too late for the ceremony, but maybe. Not too late to prove she still chose her. She keyed her comms, requesting emergency evac. Nearest airstrip, priority 1. No questions asked, and then she turned away from the mission, from protocol, from the only life she'd ever known. The chopper came fast. Claire didn't wait for the full landing. She climbed in as the rotors screamed overhead. Pilot glanced back. Destination Colombian border, then wheels up to Georgia. I'll coordinate in the air. She strapped in, pulled the headset on. No medal, no uniform change, just sweat dust and fire in her chest. Angela Reed's voice crackled in her ear. Hostage extraction proceeding, Jackson's running point. Good, Claire replied. Then Reed paused. You really think this is worth it? Claire didn't answer right away. She looked out the window down at the trees, the rivers, the shadows. And she whispered mostly to herself, she waited 16 years for me to show up. If I can't give her 6 hours, I don't deserve the next 16. Reed said nothing. The chopper banked hard north. Claire closed her eyes. And, for the first time in years, she prayed for a traffic-free sky. Claire's boots hit the tarmac in Bogotá at 23:28 hours. No press, no briefings, just fuel and clearance. By Euro 110, she was finally cleared for wheels up, delayed by storm alerts and rerouted airspace. Atlanta, ETA 0540. Still 3 hours to Savannah. She knew she'd miss everything, but maybe not. Everyone, if nothing went wrong. She didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stared at her phone. The last text from Hannah still sat unread. Just finished the first dance. Everyone asked for you. Claire closed her eyes. 4 rows of seats, 15 operators. No one spoke, just the soft hum of jet engines and the quiet ache of too much lost time. Meanwhile, in Savannah, the cake was cut, the bouquet tossed. Hannah sat alone now, barefoot dress wrinkled at the knees. Jake placed a soft hand on her shoulder. You okay? She didn't answer right away. Just whispered. She promised. Then looked toward the door, still hoping, still waiting. 2:08 a.m. Atlanta time. Claire hit the tarmac, running. 3 black military SUVs waited by the gate. No fanfare, just headlights and urgency. A junior officer handed her coffee she didn't ask for. She took it anyway, hands shaking. Convoy to Savannah's already staged, he said. It's a 4-hour haul. Claire nodded. Drive fast. They did. No sirens, just low beams cutting through backroads and tired Georgia trees. Claire sat in the backseat, helmet off, boots, muddy heart thudding against every rib. She checked her phone. No new messages. Last one from Hannah still there. Still hoping you'll walk through that door. Claire closed her eyes. If Hannah had already gone, she'd understand. But if she was still there, still waiting, still holding on, then Claire had to show up. Even if all she could offer was being too late. 8:43 a.m. Magnolia Gardens was almost empty. Morning fog had cleared. So had most of the guests. Magnolia Gardens looked almost asleep. String lights still flickered in the branches, faint forgotten. A few cars left in the gravel lot. A janitor swept petals near the front gate. No music. No voices. Just silence and soft morning fog. The convoy pulled in. Claire stepped out. Boots first, then the rest of her still in fatigue's eyes rimmed with red. Her legs ached, her chest heavier than her rucksack ever was. The front doors loomed. She didn't know what she expected. Empty chairs. A locked hall. A note on the door. But as she climbed the front steps, she heard it. Laughter. Soft, tired, familiar. Someone had stayed. Claire placed her hand on the doorknob. Paused. She had no speech, no excuse, no right. Just one truth. She was here, and this time, she wasn't leaving it at voicemail. The doors creaked open. Claire stepped inside. Combat boots hit polished wood. 1, 2, loud in the hush. The room wasn't empty. A handful of guests lingered half asleep in folding chairs, coats slung over arms. Someone held a coffee in a plastic cup. The band was packing up. And Hannah stood in the middle of the dance floor barefoot, dress slightly wrinkled, hair falling loose from the pins. She turned. Everything stopped. The band froze. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Jake looked up from a folding chair, mouth slightly open, and Claire just stood there. No salute, no smile, no speech, just a woman in camo, eyes hollow from 2 nights without sleep, skin dusted with Venezuelan dirt. She took one step forward. "Hannah!" Her voice cracked. Hannah didn't move, didn't blink. Claire took another step. "I made it," she said barely above a whisper. "I came back." Hannah stared at her. Claire in boots, camouflage, still smelling like dust and smoke and 1,000 places that weren't here. "You made it," Hannah said. Her voice wasn't warm, wasn't cold, just tired. "You missed the ceremony?" Claire opened her mouth, but Hannah cut her off. "You missed the first dance." Her hands trembled now. Not from rage, just from release. "You missed the toast, the cake, the stupid game where Jake's grandma guessed how long we'll last." Claire stepped forward. "I tried." "You always try," Hannah said, voice breaking. "And you always have a reason. A mission, a plane, a world that needs saving." Her eyes welled, but she didn't wipe them. "You know what it felt like, Claire, walking down that aisle, looking for your face." She swallowed hard, and realizing for the 1,000th time you weren't coming. Claire didn't argue, because every word was true, and she'd heard them all, before, just never out loud. Claire reached into her jacket. Slow, no rush, no drama. She pulled out a small photo, creased, smudged, folded once down the middle. She handed it to Hannah. 2 children. A boy missing his front teeth. A girl with pigtails and dirt on her cheeks. Alive. "Ambassador Carter's kids," Claire said quietly. "They were set to die before midnight." Hannah stared at the photo. Didn't speak. Claire's voice cracked. "I was in that cave, surrounded by tripwires. One wrong step, and they were gone." She paused. "I handed over command to my second. Walked out of an active mission, got on a chopper, told no one, broke a dozen rules." Her hands shook slightly. "Because for once I wasn't willing to lose you to save strangers." Hannah looked up, eyes full, lips parted. Claire added softer, "Now." "I didn't make it to the altar, Han, but I left a war to keep a promise." Hannah held the photo for a long time. She traced the edge with her thumb. "They're just kids," she said softly. "Just like we were." Claire nodded. Didn't speak, didn't plead, didn't defend. Just stood there. Not as a colonel, not as a soldier, but as a woman who finally ran toward something instead of away. Hannah looked up, and for the first time that day, she really looked at her sister. Face streaked with dust, eyes sunken from 2 sleepless nights, still wearing the boots she hiked into hell with. "You left a mission," Hannah whispered. "You left hostages." "For me," Claire swallowed. "I didn't leave the mission," she said. "I left command. Because someone else could finish it. But no one else could be your sister." Hannah blinked hard. The photo trembled in her hand. "Then quietly, I see you now, Claire. Really. See you." Hannah stepped forward. Not fast, not dramatic, just sure. Claire didn't move, didn't breathe. Then Hannah reached up, wrapped both arms around her sister's neck, and pulled her in. No applause, no speeches, just the soft sound of fabric against fabric, camouflage against ivory lace, dust and sweat brushing against silk and sequins. Hannah's voice small but steady next to Claire's ear. "You're here." Claire held on like the world might fall apart if she let go. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I missed too much." Hannah shook her head. "You made it for what matters." Behind them, someone sniffled. "Emma." Jake wiped his eyes. Even the band stopped packing up, because in that moment, no one saw a soldier. No one saw a bride. They just saw 2 sisters, finally, in the same room, at the same time. Claire didn't change it out of her uniform. No one asked her to. Someone handed her a ginger ale. Someone else found a folding chair near the dance floor. The lights were dimmer now, the music slower, the kind that people sway to when the real party's over and only the real ones remain. Hannah sat beside her, dress wrinkled, feet bare, bouquet long gone. They didn't say much, just breathed the same air again. Then Emma leaned over. "You still owe her a speech." Claire blinked. What? The maid of honor speech. You promised it 6 months ago, remember?" Claire looked at Hannah. Hannah shrugged, smiling. "You did." So Claire stood, Boots dusty, hair a mess, heart in her throat. She raised her glass and said, "I've saved lives. I've worn medals. I've followed orders." She paused. But nothing, and I mean nothing, took more courage than showing up tonight. Not as a soldier, but as her sister. The band didn't ask. They just played it. That old Ray Charles song their father used to hum on the porch after dinner, the one he swayed to with a beer in hand and both daughters stepping on his boots. Claire looked at Hannah. Hannah was already standing. Hand out. Claire took it, boots and all. The crowd stepped back. Not clapping, just watching. Like they knew this wasn't a dance. This was a return. As they moved slow in a crooked circle, Hannah whispered, "You remember the steps?" Claire nodded. "I never forgot." And then quiet laughter. Not the kind from punchlines. The kind that comes when healing sneaks in. Claire's sleeve brushed against Hannah's dress. Camouflage paint smudged into white satin. A streak of war across lace. Hannah looked down, and didn't wipe it off. She just smiled. Now it's perfect. And it was. Not clean, not flawless, but finally, complete. It was nearly 2:00 a.m. The last guests had gone. Only lanterns flickered now, swaying in the breeze. Hannah sat on the porch steps of the venue, heels off, dress gathered in her lap. Claire walked out, 2 mugs in hand, hot cocoa, not whiskey, because that's what Dad would have done. They sat in silence, just the two of them, sisters again. After a moment, Hannah said, "You leaving tonight?" Claire nodded. 0600 transport, to D.C. Claire shook her head. Not sure where yet, but not the field, not for a while. Silence. Then Hannah whispered, "You know, I didn't cry at the altar." Claire looked over. "But when I saw you walk through those doors, camo dirt boots and all, I lost it." Claire smiled. "That wasn't dirt. That was South American mountain dust." "Well," Hannah said, raising her mug, "it looked good on you." They clinked. No toast, no words. Just warmth. Just home. By sunrise, Claire was gone. No send-off, no salute. Just a handwritten note on the porch swing. "I'll be back before the cake goes stale. Love, your maid of honor in progress." Inside, Hannah found it and smiled. Didn't cry. Didn't chase. Just pressed the note to her chest. And finally, exhaled. Weeks later, the dress went to the cleaners. They couldn't remove the dust smudge on the lace hem. The woman behind the counter asked, "Want me to try again?" Hannah shook her head. "No," she said softly. "That's the best part. Sometimes the people who miss the most are the ones who fight the hardest to return, and sometimes forgiveness doesn't come in big speeches, just in one small step through a door. So, if someone in your life has been gone too long, before you close that door, wait 1 more hour. They just might be on their way. If you've ever missed someone you love, don't wait for the right time. Wait for the right reason. Would you have left the mission or the wedding? Comment below, mission or sister.